State Line Dalton for Giant and Jimmy, brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill.
Nowadays, because we've seen young guys have some success, if you're not successful in year 1 or 2, now if you get put in a bad situation, it may end your freaking career.
Well, everybody's on the clock right away now. Just look at the Miami Dolphins. I mean, you know, Mike McDaniel, congratulations. You're the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. In 3 years, you're going to be gone. Just look at the last 12 to 15 years of Miami Dolphin head coaches. In your third year, you got to start, calling for boxes at Home Depot. and where's my next job going to be? Because that's the reality of the lack of patience in the National Football League.
Everybody that moves to Florida that plays any kind of sports probably became obsessed with golf.
Oh, yeah, for a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
And then you realize you suck.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like gambling. Like if you win right away, you assume it's going to be easy, and then you don't win the next times.
It was a $74 exacta hit that I split 3 ways with my 2 friends that I was with at Roosevelt Raceway that doomed me. That was it. Although, see, I can't say that. This was in my DNA. If you're a degenerate, is it not part? It doesn't have to run in your family, but it is part of your emotional DNA. I mean, what drives you to, just a complete life of self-sabotage by spending your life gambling?
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here on ION Channel. Another edition, a Tuesday edition of the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest and one Mike Lubitz. And that second clip could not have been any more appropriate for the big news, the headline news of the day in the sporting world, which is all over the place. Everybody's making a big stink about this, that the Atlanta Falcons receiver, Calvin Ridley, who was in play for a lot of trade talks, including possibility that he might be the one addition that could spark up a lackluster Miami Dolphin passing game and allow Tua Tagovailoa to finally fulfill the promise that Lubie had predicted for him when he was drafted number 5 overall by the Miami Dolphins in what now looms as just an egregious, outrageous, organizational killing mistake. But nonetheless, that might have been the thing that turned the corner for this kid. I mean, it's too early to throw in a towel on somebody after they've been in the league for a couple of years, although the signs are not necessarily overwhelmingly positive, Mike Lubitz. But that being said, Calvin Ridley will not be a Miami Dolphin this coming year. He will not be an Atlanta Falcon this coming year because while he was out of action, and he actually took like a sabbatical from the NFL to deal with what he said were personal mental health issues. And while he was doing that, he placed what he claims was $1,500 worth of parlay wagers, and in kind of a sick fashion. In that, you could tell he was somewhat of a novice. He's betting 5-team and 8-team parlays, Mike Lubitz, which everybody knows prohibitive, right? Although every now and then you hit one. Had that guy the other day that hit 23 teams, all favorites, by the way. Hit a 23-team parlay, put $1.10 on the thing. And whoever took that bet has to be long gone from any kind of casino industry jobs because the casino had to pay out $525,000 while taking that bet and their profit would have been, I don't know. I mean, do you count the ink that they had to write the ticket with? Because they were going to make a buck on that thing, like $1. If the guy lost, which in all likelihood, that dollar was going to go to the casino instead. At 525,000 to 1, that they have to make the payoff. So there are people that are hitting sick parlays. A friend of my son, Jesse, is one of those 10-team parlay type of bettors, Libby, on soccer, of all things. On soccer. He hit a 5-team either soccer or hockey parlay the other night for like 10 dimes somehow. He ended up with $10,000. So he was betting at least like, 500 on that? A little bit mashugana, you would have to say. I mean, it's all relative to how much money you can afford to lose because, let's face it, we make the recommendation constantly here that you gamble responsibly, which is an oxymoron. I mean, there is no way to gamble responsibly. If you're gambling, you're being irresponsible, are you not? By the very nature of the idea that you're willing to throw money at something that is a complete intangible and often determined by just arbitrary blind luck, you are being irresponsible. There's no question about it. But where does this stand? I mean, Calvin Ridley suspension, indefinite suspension, but probably going to be a 1-year suspension. And he'll be able to apply for reinstatement. He was forthright with the NFL, they said, once they called him to the table on that. He was agreeable to come in and talk about it. He told the people exactly what he did. I guess that was easily verifiable because he had made these wagers on a phone application. and he had bet on his team to win, but he was not involved in the games. So it isn't like he was, doing something to sabotage his team's chances as he bet against him. And, you really have to look at this. So as the baseball people are battling over what the minimum wage is going to be for a player that just comes into the league as a rookie, the minimum salary is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $700,000 a year. And in all likelihood, you're talking about a guy that's younger than like 23, 24 years old if he's making his foray into Major League Baseball. Now, the minimum salary in the NFL is also substantial. I would imagine in excess of $500,000. And we're looking at salaries. In this case, Calvin Ridley was making $11 million. If he played this year, he would have made $11 million in salary if he played out his contract this year and didn't get involved in any renegotiation or anything. $11 million. It would take a lot of money to influence a guy to lose a ball game. How much could he possibly bet that would go undetected that it would be possible to offset sacrificing $11 million? Impossible to really bribe a guy at this point. A player, you're more likely to be able to influence an official like Tim Donaghy, right? I kill your family if you don't call some fouls, right? I mean, I don't know. It wasn't Russians. It was Italians he was dealing with there because they were the Gambino crime family members who were sitting in the front row going, hey, that's a charge, Donaghy. All of a sudden, guys were going to the free throw line like all night long in the end of the game to make sure that certain overs were accomplished. But the scent of impropriety is a thing that, and the integrity of the game, these are lofty propositions that are, and theories and philosophies that are tossed about all the time in sport, and rightfully so, right? If you don't think the game's on the level, I've told you that story many times. Mike Lubitz told it on the air repeatedly, where one of my very first interviews I ever did, I was trying to get a job somewhere, and I figured I better have a couple of writing samples, so I tried to interview some people that I thought were influential in sports. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. And I remember sitting down with a general manager of the then California Angels, Harry Dalton, who had made his legacy he had really built up a very formidable reputation when he was the general manager of the Baltimore Orioles. And they were very good during Dalton's era. Now he goes to California and he put together some pretty good teams. He had a good product out there. They weren't necessarily winning championships, even though the singing cowboy, Gene Autry, who owned the team, was constantly being referenced in headlines in the Los Angeles Times and the L.A. Herald Examiner, singing cowboy ready to empty saddlebags to produce a winner, right? They were always talking about how he was willing to spend money. Free agency had just kind of come around. But I remember going in to interview Harry Dalton, a very green Deforrest, very nervous. I go into this palatial office that he had. The baseball teams in Los Angeles definitely were not, living like riffraff. That's for sure. And one of the things he said to me that stuck with me was, we can't possibly have the notion out there, and this is 50 years ago, Lubie, that the game is not on the level. That's the one thing that everybody has to believe, that the game is on the level. And, he was talking about selling a pennant race and some of the marketing applications that are involved in running a pro sports franchise, in addition to just having a roster of talented players that can go out there and are capable of winning. But the slightest notion of impropriety is kind of a death knell, is it not? I mean, it turns professional football into professional wrestling.
Yes.
And I don't know that many people are betting on professional wrestling. Is anybody betting on that? Vince McMahon. What was that, Lubie?
I don't know. Yeah, you never hear about gambling with wrestling. It makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of odds on whether or not the Iron Sheik is going to win by pin that night. But anyway, as Calvin Ridley gets a year's suspension, pretty harsh penalty, you would have to say. There have only been, I think, 3 other guys suspended for gambling in the history of the National Football League. 2, a very famous incident from my youth. And I remember being sort of appalled by it. And later on, I got to know, I didn't know Alex Karras, but I did get to know Paul Hornung a little bit, as a lot of people who are in South Florida did, because he was always hanging around local racetracks. And he was the most approachable and friendly guy. He was like one of those guys that was holding court at the bar. Paul Hornung, the great Paul Hornung, the Golden Boy. Notre Dame, Green Bay Packers, and he was as versatile and hard to defend a player as McCaffrey is today. I mean, and he was a bigger guy also, and he also, I think he kicked He might have been the place kicker for the Green Bay Packers. Paul Hornung, very versatile athlete, great guy. He was a lot of fun, a real Damon Runyon type of character. And he was suspended along with Alex Harris in 1963. They had made some wagers, I believe, on NFL games. And I think that took place legally in Las Vegas, but they suspended him for a year for the 1963 season. Both guys were big stars. So it was huge news. Alex Harris, of course, went on probably achieved better fame
as an actor
for being in Mel Brooks movies, right? Than he was as a great player, a Hall of Famer.
Wasn't he on Mr. Belvedere? I think.
Yeah, he became an actor. Yeah.
He was like the dad on Mr. Belvedere. That's how I know Alex Karras.
Imagine that. Yeah, this was one tough MF
yeah.
when he was playing in the National Football League. I mean, nobody wanted to mess with Alex Karras, including the commissioner who banned him. And Paul Hornung, and Hornung was a superstar of that day because the Green Bay Packers were the number one team in the professional football ranks. Ed Lombardi, and it was Paul Hornung and Jim Taylor in the backfield behind Bart Starr, with Boyd Dowler out there on the outside. I mean, just unbelievable teams they had, great defensive teams, and Hornung was probably, second best known to Bart Starr, I would think, off those Green Bay Packer teams. He was just absolutely tremendous. Suspended for a year, and then the only other guy that was suspended was a guy named Josh Shaw. And this was just a couple of years ago, I guess, when all of this phone application gambling and DraftKings and FanDuel became very much in focus. And the NFL started to embrace these guys. Now, I mean, how much of a conflict is that? Where Roger Goodell, how many of the Super Bowl commercials, which are going at like $5 million a pop for 30 seconds, how many of those were referencing gambling entities?
Exactly.
I'm not sure. I mean, I want to think that probably half of the commercials, I don't know if it was true in the Super Bowl, but I know it's true in a lot of regular season games. You won't see a spot break, as they call it, where, they call a timeout and you're going to go to like 3 minutes of commercials. So they're running like 6 30-second ads, and 3 of them are for gambling sites and gambling opportunities.
Yep.
And big come-ons. Hey, your first $1,000 is free. It's on us.
Yep.
Now, they're not giving you a chance to bet $1,000 because they figure you're going to win in the long run.
No.
So, I mean, it's very much a conflict, I think, for sports to be intertwined with. If these leagues are going to take the money from these gambling entities, which who wouldn't, right? We're waiting for our pile of cash. Jack, it's coming. I'm telling you, Jack. It's coming, right? But, and we would be naturals in this field of content that they're looking for in this particular genre right now, which is grown in popularity to the point where I don't know, they keep throwing numbers out there like $50 billion is being bet. Was that the Super Bowl alone? $50 billion? That sounds kind of high. Or is it just last month? Worldwide, I mean, who knows how much money is really being wagered now through all of these legal means. So now if a player goes ahead and gets on there and goes and makes a couple of bets, should he be subjected to that level of punishment where he's going to lose $11 million for placing $1,500 worth of bets, where they already had kind of determined that there was no inside information on these bets? It wasn't like he knew that one of his buddies in the league was going to lay down, but it's not a good image, is it? When, it's kind of like seeing Joel Osteen drive off in his Rolls Royce to some, 400-room mansion that he lives in with his lovely wife. And you're thinking, how much of that was the congregation's money that was supposed to go help the poor, Joel? Any of it?
Oh, exactly.
Unbelievable, right? I mean, it's not like you're living in, modest means so that you can help others. You're taking your piece of the pie. Yep. So if the NFL is going to do that, can they then come down with such harsh scrutiny on players that casually make a couple of bets, which they've been recommending to everybody in virtually every spot break? Somebody is screaming at you. I mean, whether it's Jamie Foxx, the Mannings, are on there telling you, hey, well, why don't you sign up for this? Right? Archie's in there with like Caesar's Palace. Archie, they dug up Archie Manning to help sell gambling. So very interesting.
Things like, come on, like they have the other one that's with Barstool. Like all of these are connected to the end. That's my only problem with this entire thing. I understand it's a rule, and I understand that it can't get in the way of the game. Fine. But if it's illegal, one, and number two, you're partnered and it's on the goddamn field.
Yeah.
And the players aren't betting against their team. And you can make sure of that. At some point, they sort of have to restructure the rules because the players aren't doing anything wrong.
Well, I mean, I could see where it would be blatant chaos created if you did allow players to bet on NFL games, and it certainly would raise the question of whether or not, I mean, a guy says, hey, listen, look, let's suppose, and this is why this thing with Stephen Ross, I mean, if he isn't punished.
Oh, but that's crazy.
If it's found to be true that he actually offered Brian Flores money to go out there and lose games or had an incentive to lose, then I mean, that would be a lifetime ban for him and maybe even forfeiture, of the entire organization. Like they should be, seeded right out of the league, right? If that was the case, because, it's a disgrace if that went on, and that's far more influential. But I mean, you might know, let's say, somebody from the Dolphins said, hey, you won't believe this, man, but Brian Flores told us that the owner is paying him to lose games. And, you have that as inside information. You would assume that the players would have a little bit of an advantage in that regard if they were betting on games. Now jockeys bet on horse races. And, it's, I don't know, is it prohibited for a jockey to bet against himself? In other words, bet on another horse that's in a race that he's got a mount in? There was just an incident that involved that, where I believe some jockey was discovered for having bet on races where he had mounts in the race, but he wasn't betting on his horse.
Nice.
Now, it's not at all uncommon. In fact, it's part of the gratuities of the game, where the owner will make like a $200 win bet for the jockey in, certain circumstances, right? The jockey goes out, you got, I just naming a jockey here. I don't know if you ever had this happen. I would assume so. Like Johnny V is riding some big stakes horse for Vinny Viola. It wouldn't be uncommon for the owner to go ahead and buy a ticket, a winning ticket for the jockey, right? Here you go. Nice job, man, right? Gives him 200 on the nose there. Comes in at 5-1. I don't know. The guy's got another dime. I mean, he buys dinner that night if he's taking 10 people out, that's for sure. Maybe not anymore. I don't know.
I was going to say, I don't know if you're getting 10 people.
Oh, my God. You know what's funny? We used to spend like $100 in a day, and we go, my God, how did I spend so much money? And just yesterday, I did nothing, right? And I blew a stick. It didn't even involve buying gas. Like, went to the store, cost me $50. Pick up, my tennis racket was restrung. And it's like, how did I do that? I did nothing yesterday. I spent $100. Nothing. I barely left the house. Although I did go down with Mike Mayo, the gambling gourmet, who will be with us on Friday. And we had a little birthday party for one of the people from the radio station, where we're doing the Mike Mayo's Lunchbox at Even Keel Fish Shack. So we're down there, Lauderdale by the Sea. Man, that place is hopping, Lubie. Spring break is on here in South Florida.
Yeah, it is spring break. Yeah.
Spring break, man. It's great because, people, clothes are optional on spring break. Pretty much. I mean, you're seeing like girls walking down the street. I mean, these are very young girls I should not be eyeballing, but you can't help it, right? When they're walking down Commercial Boulevard in pasties and a G-string. It's fantastic. It's like a dream world has come to South Florida right now. And you remember those bizarre episodes that we had at the Bamboo Beach Tiki Bar when we were trying to conduct, a very serious radio show like this. And, there were the babes from the University of Kentucky, which I think that's become an annual ritual.
It is every
year.
Where
all of these Kentucky co-eds come down to the Bamboo Beach Tiki Bar, which is a place in Fort Lauderdale. It's right on the beach. Frank Tallarico, one of the great guys, started this thing pretty much from scratch, right? I mean, he bought them out of like bankruptcy.
Yeah, it was like
and now thriving, man. I mean, the place may as well be like the Ritz-Carlton in some fancy schmancy city because, it's just rocking. But the vibe is different there. It's right on the beach. Always great. And remember, it was shocking, too, Lubie, because you haven't had your firstborn yet. And you almost got to go mafia on this and, pray that the firstborn is a son. Because it would be pretty tough. I mean, if this is how girls behave. Now Mayo disputed this when we were talking about this yesterday. Because he's a curmudgeon. He doesn't believe in spring break. He thinks he does the usual typical old, fart whining here in South Florida where, the traffic and, I'm like, forget about that, man. There's action. It looks like the place is alive. There's a good vibe. There are good-looking girls walking around everywhere. I mean, how could you possibly not be, at least aesthetically pleased?
Like if you're a restaurateur, you're not the biggest fan of it because they don't spend money. want to bring their own beer and they want to camp out. So I get from a restaurateur standpoint, but I mean, as a person, spring break's great. I had a blast in spring break every year. So why would I begrudge that on any other kid?
It was another stepping stone fueling my Ratso Rizzo dream to come to Florida.
Yeah, here, exactly.
It really was. Here I am, right? I've been here over 40 years, largely because I was influenced in some part. Well, there are a few influences. One was spring training. When you used to watch the Yankees, I was a Yankee fan as a little kid. And, there were no Mets at the time till 1962. And you dreamt about going to Fort Lauderdale because you could play baseball year-round. Can you imagine?
Yes.
That's all we wanted to do was play baseball.
I did.
So you're there freezing your Canubies off in New York City, and you're looking down there, and there's the Mick, and he's got his arm around Yogi, and here comes Whitey Ford to crack a couple of jokes. Billy Martin breaks him up and says, "Get to work, guys. This is serious." And, then they're all out getting trashed in the summer breeze on the beach later that night, and coming back the next day playing baseball in brilliant sunshine, which that's not happening right now. And, it's weird, Lubie. They say this, people say this, and it kind of circulates as general, consensus philosophy that nobody cares if they ever come back now. I'm sensing to believe that has more relevance than it has before. Like if no baseball was being played, I don't know. Is it going to kill you? I don't think so, right?
No,
Now, when you watch, against the backdrop of what's really happening in the world, there's just absolutely tear-jerking stuff that's happening in the Ukraine with these people who seem to be nothing but, did you not fall in love with all Ukrainians from the clips that you see? Not only the bravery, but, just the whole general attitude. And they live in a place where it's freezing year-round, where you have to wear funny hats in the summertime. I don't mean to make light of it because, it's very moving.
Got it.
What's happening there? Unbelievable. So, for us to worry about whether baseball players get their money, obviously, in the overall perspective, that's always been true about the sporting world, is it not?
Oh, it's just where the pecking order nowadays, and the professor likes to tell me, the NBA's ratings are down. Fine. Okay, you can tell the NBA's ratings are down, but you can go into any bar and you'll hear people talking about basketball. I don't hear anyone when baseball's going on. No one talks about baseball. No one cares. The amount of unless you're in New York, Boston, Chicago, maybe LA,
St. Louis.
Maybe St. Louis. Yes, they're perennial. That's their thing. St. Louis. Okay.
Maybe San Francisco.
They've won in Houston. They've won in Houston, and we were in Houston, and no one really gave a shit about the Astros, and they were winning. That's the thing. That's the problem for baseball is when it's going on, no one cares. No one's come up to me, and my friends love sports. We text. The only thing we talk about is sports. They haven't mentioned one thing, and they're baseball fans. They haven't said a word. That's a problem. They're in such a weird state right now. It's not 98 or 96. No one misses it. Spring training's not going.
If it didn't start till July, would you be upset? Probably not. So, yet these people are talking, as if, the world awaited this decision. And the longer it goes, the uglier it seems to, leave as an impression with people, as to whether or not we really need this to come back. It's always part of a big debate, though, at this time of the year, Lubie. What is the best time of the year in sports? Is it March or is it late September, early October? I guess October would have to be the time because, everybody's always talking about the whole conundrum that comes together where now, not only do you have, March Madness on tap, which is already, March Madness for me, and I've been talking about this the last couple of days, I enjoy the build-up to it. I really do. And it's not like I was riveted to a lot of college basketball games this year. I watched some. In perusing various sports channels, right? You're sitting there with the remote. It's good now that you can speak into the remote. So not only do you not have to get up and change the channel on the TV, you don't even have to punch a button, a couple of times to get to the channel. They go, well, what channel is that? 497? I'm not sure. Right? So, you're sitting there going, ESPN, Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports 2, whatever pecking order you have, tennis channel, golf channel, and you have all these different entities, and, you end up seeing highlights here and there and perusing channels of college basketball games, or maybe stopping on one for a little while, see what's going on. It was very enjoyable. I think I got the gist of that Coach K game because all I saw was the last 4 minutes when North Carolina scored like the last 11 points and stomped all over Coach K's face. You bitter. I mean, how could this guy be bitter after that whole thing? Right? You're about to have a ceremony to honor the 42 years you've been with a brilliant career at Duke. And you come out there and go, that was unacceptable. I can't believe that we lost.
That's such a Coach K.
What an asshole that looked like. I mean, that was just an asshole move. I'm sorry, Coach K. Sorry, Leslie Visser. Don't turn off the show. But I thought that was weird. I mean, does he have to explain his passion for winning at that moment? That he's so and that would have been something that was best said in the locker room. Just like we were letting Coach K off the hook on his sneaker deal because Leslie Stahl had no business for 60 minutes in a post-game interview starting to grill the guy about how come he's accepting $1.5 million at the time, which now would be like nothing, from Nike to have all of his Duke players wear the Nike shoes and they make nothing and have, they were doing one of those stories about, how about this one, Lubie? Here's a theme. Inequities of the NCAA not paying players.
Oh, really?
While coaches make zillions.
That's what's funny. People bitching about the NIL. The NIL, it's the worst. It's like, well, at least they're getting paid. It is what it is.
Well, the guys that say it's going to disrupt the game the most are, of course, Nick Saban and your boy Jimbo.
They don't have to share the wealth.
He's got that oil money now, and that's really worth something.
Yeah, someone was saying on Twitter, they're like, hey, if gas prices stay this high, if oil stays this high, Jimbo's going to break. Because this year, his recruiting class set a record of the modern day with stars.
Jimbo will win the next 11 national championships. He'll eclipse the Wizard of Westwood in terms of national championships.
Every 5 stars.
In any sport. Right? Well, Bud over there, he's got the wells really cranking now. Don't worry, kid. You're going to get paid. Well, that's the way the world is today. So, I mean, should we be all upset? Should everybody be in, as I said in Shawshank Redemption, should everybody be in a big twist over this Calvin Ridley thing? I mean, how much does it reek of impropriety if the guy, while not playing for the Falcons, while out due to a whatever it is, non-medical absence or whatever, how much does it really impact the game if this guy bet $1,500 on a couple of foolish 18 parlays on the site that Roger Goodell has tattooed on his forehead?
Well, and they said it was legal. I didn't realize Florida, I guess at the time it was illegal. They had the Hard Rock had that app.
Oh, that was in November. Yeah, that was like for the 3 days that we had legalized gambling here.
Yeah, Ridley's from Broward County.
By the way, who is this nutbag doctor that's like the Surgeon General of Florida? I mean, that says, vaccines? Alchemy, my friends. Medieval science.
I love it. He's like, don't get a vaccine. The numbers are great. Once people got vaccinated, it went down the first time. And then when people weren't getting vaccinated, it went up. And then people got vaccinated again, it went down. It's clearly statistically proven. They work. We all know they work.
I'm screaming at the television set, Ronnie, how do we not have gambling, Ronnie?
Exactly. That's the one thing he was good at.
Because you were too greedy when you went to those Native Americans at the Seminole tribe and said, what's in it for me?
That's it.
Come on.
That's it. He was too greedy.
Jesus. Unbelievable, man. We can't get anything right in this state. We keep going backwards, right? We're making more laws. We're, prohibiting abortions, and you can't. What is that deal with the no say gay? I don't even know if I fully understand that. Even though I've watched like a million stories. What are they trying to accomplish with that? I mean, what is the point of passing this law?
I don't know, scaring little kids. Like they want to make sure kids are really scared and not comfortable in their own skin.
We're already in the Stone Age in this state. People, if you realize the frustrations of being an open-minded, liberal, hippy-dippy era person in Florida. Now, it's great. The trade-off, wouldn't trade it for the world, right? And there's only so much now, as you get older, that's the one good thing. There's only so much the government can do to you, right? I mean, after a while, what are they going to do? Take you away, haul you to jail? Yeah, you better do some time, Defo. I don't have that much time.
What time?
Yeah, who cares what I do at this point? You think the government cares? No, they're happy to hand me my Social Security payment, every month, and I'm happy to collect it. I really am. Straight to the track. I really am the prototypical guy that takes his Social Security payment as it comes in and goes straight to the track.
Like you used to go, we'd walk in and you'd be like, this is where people go. And
that's where they cash their Social Security checks.
Security money.
Yeah,
and
that was
100%
great.
You.
Well, this was a racetrack that was, largely meant to have people indoors because it was so, just obnoxiously hot in the summertime. Plus, it was going to be pour rain almost as if the flamingos were flying at Hialeah in the splendor of the wintertime. It was going to be pouring rain, like one of the ugliest rainstorms you ever saw, just before the sixth race started every day. All right, so people were inside, and one of the features there was, I mean, they always kept the air conditioning just cranking.
Yep.
I'd call the race course cranking, man.
Yep.
I mean, whoever was doing the AC there was doing a great job. And, to their credit, they realized that most of the old people were coming in there. And even though they never got up from their seat to make a bet the entire day, they just wanted to soak up enough air conditioning so that by the time they went home, they wouldn't have to turn their electricity on. Their body was still frozen from their day at the track. It was like taking a box of fish sticks out of the freezer there and just leaving it on the counter. And then you come back 2 days later, they're still not defrosted. Unbelievable. But that was, the state of affairs here at the time. I don't get it, man. When I see Ronnie up there making all of these hideous pronouncements, how is it that we don't have gambling, Ron?
Yeah, at least have gambling. If you're going to do that, be the business guy, then be the business guy. Like, be consistent at least.
Well, I mean, every other state is just making monster money. So to resolve this, I don't know that there is a great resolution to it. The Calvin Ridley thing, I feel badly for this guy. I don't know. I'm not sure, what his character is. I don't know that much about Calvin Ridley. We know he's an outstanding wide receiver. The Falcons always had a very good offense. Had Matty Ryan throwing the rock to him. The highlights looked really good. You're thinking, wow, if that guy was a Dolphin, would it hurt anything? No. Or if he was on your team, which apparently, I guess the Falcons were looking for a deal. They have an $11 million wide receiver. Now is that really that pricey for a top-level wide receiver? Would you consider Calvin Ridley top-level, Lubie?
That's the problem is I don't know if he's like top 10 guy. So
yeah, I mean, he's not like upper.
That's a lot of money for a guy who was really good but had issues. So that's the thing. And now they can wipe that money right off their cap. So I guess that's a positive. My thing with the whole, what I don't understand is people who are like, he's done. I'm like, why? This isn't Pete Rose. Like, they have accepted gambling's legal and they've accepted it. Like, the year fine because it's a rule and you got to make sure guys don't ruin, like you said, the idea that it's all on the level. But he's not done. Like, and he shouldn't be. Like, that's a stupid ass overreaction.
I remember, and this struck me, and I think I was telling a story the other day about this guy, Jim Lucas, who was working on a book with my father, who was an editor at a book publishing company. Took me to a Washington Senators game. A couple of them actually went like 2-3 days in a row.
Nice.
And, I mean, for me, giant baseball fan, I loved everything about it. It was one of those things, like my poetic spring training episode on the Defo files. Deforrest files we used to do on the radio where, I was writing this little editorial every day. And, the baseball one was like a standard script. Lubie would go, here it is. He would give me the script from last year about, the 3-in-1 oil in the pocket of the glove with the ball strapped in there and the smell of the line being laid out on a foul line and, birds flying, all of this stuff.
Back of the bat.
But I mean, it's that sort of thing where you're just wondering, where is it all going to go? I guess that's the question that we're asking here. And I wouldn't be too harsh about this Calvin Ridley. I think I would have given him a little bit of. They're throwing a book at this guy. It's like, son, I've got to make an example of you.
Yes.
This happens sometimes. It goes both ways with like anybody with even, and I know this from firsthand experience, even the most model level of celebrity, right? The lowest level of celebrity. You either get like the book thrown at you or you get off, scot free. I mean, and more often than not, it's the latter where people are willing to do you a favor. But, if you happen to be that guy that the judge looks at and it's like Ellen Morphonius Gable, remember the hanging judge here in South Florida?
Yeah.
She's the one that sentenced Merck to 15 years, Mercury Morris, which was a mandatory sentence, another hideous, prohibitive, medieval law that was on the books in South Florida. But, they were trying to eradicate a problem. I understand that. So, you want to have harsh penalties, discourage people. But do you give a guy like, a sports death penalty for betting a couple of games when everything that you're all about now is about betting these games?
It's a little hypocritical.
A little weird. I mean, does the guy this one deserve a free pass? And then they make, a solid, concrete rule that everybody agrees to, the Players Association, if it's an addendum to the collective bargaining agreement, I'm sure some language is in there. We'll ask Brett Tesser about gambling.
Well, that's what I'm excited. Seems very Tesla, this topic, and he's a guy that deals with the league, and he knows a lot of the stuff that even NFL people we talk to wouldn't know. Has to deal with contracts and stuff like that.
I'm thinking this, and I've heard this theory expressed on the people that are discussing this issue, and I would tend to agree that. Look, there's nothing wrong with a guy gambling. If he wants to, he's got plenty of money, and young guy looking for a little excitement. That's fine. I would say this: that if you wanted to kind of live the experience of a game, your interest is amplified. Look at last night's Heat game, for example, Mike Lubitz. Right, Heat versus Rockets. You know what the spread was on this game?
It started at 16. It finished supposedly at 16, but I saw 16 and a hook.
Okay, I originally saw 15 and a half. So, I mean, imagine this. It was not even high enough at 15 and a half to encourage people to bet on the Rockets, who had just won the previous night on the road. And you have to use a little reverse thinking there, as the Rockets are a lousy team.
Yeah,
and the odds of them winning back-to-back games on the road against quality opponents are Plutarski, 0.0.
Yep.
So you figure they're going to be defeated. Now, are they feisty enough off that win to give the Heat some kind of real competition? And the Heat now had the emotional lift. And I didn't think this was going to amount to what it did. The emotional lift of Victor Oladipo coming back.
You're not on social media anymore. You don't even do Facebook anymore. It literally was dubbed. And I was excited because I knew what he could be. But I don't know what he's going to be now. So I didn't really think much of it. But every day they were counting down when Victor Oladipo was going to join, to the point where yesterday they were calling hashtag Depot Day. And it was like all over social media, Depot Day. And I'm like, is he even playing? Like, how do you know he's
Well, I mean, it wasn't like he lit it up. He was sort of so-so as a Heat player when he got here. It was an interesting acquisition. It was worth a shot. The guy, had been banged up there, but had really been, at times you would have to say brilliant with the Indiana Pacers. I mean, he was an excellent ball player and a guy that you would want to have on your team. And he was not, necessarily one of these stars that has to shoot the ball every time he gets it. He made very clever passes upon his return last night in his ball game for the Miami Heat. But, to the gambling aspect of it, so you saw it at 16 and a hook. I saw it at 15 and a hook. Yeah. The Heat eventually won the game by what? 17 points,
17,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing, though. If you have money on this game or you're even following this aspect of it, there was no reason to watch the game anymore from about, maybe the 5-minute mark. I mean, you could see the way it was going anyway. The Heat weren't going to lose this ball game. So the only thing that was in play was the point spread. And the point spread brilliantly, figured out and calculated by the gambling world, where this game, it came down to the final seconds in terms of determining the outcome against the spread, because Houston hits like a meaningless three with about 6 seconds to go, and you're thinking, you know what? If by some bizarre quirk of fate they get the ball back and heave one, they cover the point spread, and the entire game turns upside down. The Heat, with a brilliant victory, end up losing to the spread, and the guys that had the balls to bet the Rockets ended up, with a nice payday. So, I mean, the fascination of it, if you have any kind of investment in it whatsoever, there would be no reason to have watched that game from the midway point of the fourth quarter on, except if you wanted to see if Tyler Hero would get 40 points in the ballgame. And the Oladipo story was kind of an interesting story. I did not realize he was that popular of a Heat player.
Big thing, Depot Day.
Wow. You would have thought Dwayne Wade was coming back in his prime.
Right? Okay, I didn't get to watch it. Like, were they like standing O? Like,
people went nuts. Yeah. He missed a couple of shots at the start. He had a couple of sloppy plays. Yeah. Not horrible, but you could see. I mean, pace of the game, it's a lot different, right? You're rolling around in practice, getting your quad back in shape, and then all of a sudden you're in the midst of an NBA game. And Houston, I will say this: they played hard for a team that's really bad.
They were in it for the first 3 quarters.
They were up like 13 in the second quarter, and you thought, wow, imagine this: you're getting 15 in a hook, you're up 13.
Yeah, you're nice
in the second quarter, and you're going to lose, and the deflation factor came in, and with about 4 minutes to go, you could see, oh my God, we're not even going to win garbage time.
Well, that's my only issue with Ridley is, why would he do it on his phone? Like, have a buddy do it. Like,
it's not even that. I mean, why do it at all? It's inconsequential, except to have a little fun, which is what the NFL is encouraging you, and all of these leagues are encouraging you to think of it as. And it is fun. Look, that game would have been far more entertaining for me if I actually had money
Oh
on
my
it. I'm one of those guys that I can kind of envision what I would have done in a game, and just on a mind bet still have this same level of entertainment.
But they
Right?
were coming under the wire. They were up by 14 with 6 minutes left. And, the neurotic fan in me, even I was like, okay, good. They have this win. But I woke up and I was like, huh, did they cover?
It makes the unimportant part of the game vital. It really does. I mean, that's what gambling does sometimes. If you get involved in it, it just makes events more exciting. You can't help but get more involved from every emotional fiber in your body when you're looking at something like that. And you're watching guys from Houston just mindlessly bricking threes there at the end of the ball game, and you're thinking, "No, take it inside, do something." They're giving it to you, and it came down to the final plays. Just decided when the Heat made a couple of big shots. They do bring a wave of players off the bench that are highly functional. And now with all the Defo in their rotation, deep
What do you mean in
is
Hero?
appropriate.
Hero's done everything. It's funny. The one thing I said last year, because they weren't signing people, and we talked about this with Scoop a lot, was, but what if they have their own acquisitions on their team? Bam is still young. Hero's still young. If they can learn to play another level, which both have. Bam is now definitively the best defender in all of the basketball. The dude literally defends 1 through 5. Like, it's fucking scary. And now he's aggressive offensively. And now Hero isn't just shooting, like, the dude gets to the basket. He's as good as one in the mid-range. He's not a total sieve defensively. He's not ever going to be good defensively, but he's not a total waste defensively. And he's passing. He's taking his game to another level, and he's okay being on the bench. And now Strus can spell Robinson whenever he's not hitting threes. Like, they're the only team in the NBA that can go 12 deep, and every guy has a function. Like, none of them are like, even when they go to Deadman, like, Deadman has a use.
Deadman's excellent, man. Yeah, that guy is a good
Martin
sub.
is supposedly a G. They're scared to take Martin out of the end of games because he was so good at end of games that they're like, shit.
Don't get carried away, man. They're going to lose to Boston in the playoffs.
I don't know what they're going to do. I'm just saying they're interesting.
No, they're a very good team. And the Oladipo thing is, it was, as Al Bernstein would say, an intriguing development because I didn't realize this man had that kind of popularity. When did he establish his popularity? He didn't play for like a year. He was only here for a cup of coffee, and he really didn't do that much. I mean, people were wondering, oh, shoot. I mean, this guy looks like a shot fighter at times, Oladipo.
Yes. That was the whole thing was,
wow.
Are they going to keep him? Because
that's how they got him, was he was on the scrap heap.
Yes.
I mean, otherwise, a very popular player in Indiana. But he looked good last night. He really did. I mean, he had a nice dunk on a drive. The first shot he hit, he had missed a couple of shots, I believe, and he cans a 3 out of the corner or just outside the corner on the wing. Distributed the ball. He made a really, really nice pass, one of the nicest passes you'll see on the inside on a drive on the baseline, and then he just fired a ball. I think it went to either Adebayo or Deadman for a dunk. And, very, very nice. I mean, just a sharp pass for a guy that hadn't been playing for a long time. So we'll see. I mean, that we've been asking this question of every analyst we have on the show. The Heat are the best in the East by standings, by statistics, and by all of the usual barometers of measuring who's number one. But are they the best in the East? And that's, a good, tough question, especially I don't know what happened. What happened in that Philadelphia game? How did they end up dominating that game? What, was Embiid out or something?
The Bulls. I meant to tell you yesterday, and I just let you have it. Harden didn't play.
Oh, okay.
They called it the South Beach flu without actually making it the South Beach.
Wow. Well, it wouldn't be surprising to find out that James Harden was out later and eclipsed the record of Allen Iverson for being out.
They
for the
said
Philadelphia
it was
76ers.
but like a lot of local reporters were like, hamstring, you mean Tootsies and Gold Rush, that hamstring?
Yeah. He was pulling some strings, all right, but they were on a woman's brassiere, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea what happened to James Harden.
He hasn't prepared. He likes he's known to like strip clubs.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, he got in the jackpot, right? When some athlete's kid got shot, in a strip club. And supposedly Harden was like the guy that nodded over to the corner and told the guy, yeah, that's him. So we'll see. That story went away. What happened there? Maybe there is hope for Deshaun Watson after all, right? I mean, if that Harden thing went away where a guy was paralyzed or whatever. All right, enough of crime in sports. The crime is that Calvin Ridley suspended for a year. Is it hypocritical on the part of the NFL? That's a big question of the day. Harvey Fielkov going to join us later on. Brett Tesser, the agent to the stars. Good time to talk to Brett, too, because you have all this franchise tagging and then the story out of Dallas that who's the player? Lawrence? Mark Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence. Yeah, refused to take the proposed pay cut from the Dallas Cowboys. I ain't taking less money.
Hey, he's
right?
good.
What is a player's recourse? I think we kind of touched on this with Brett last time he was on the show where, you get the call from the general manager. Hey, Brett, how you doing? I tell you what, your boy's really playing some good ball for us. And unfortunately, we're going to have to redo his contract if we're going to keep him around here. Are you willing to take like half the money this year and then no guarantees that he's going to play or, and they want to restructure a deal that you had to hammer out before. And they were more than happy to give you the money like 2 years ago. But, it's so weird. NFL contracts, absolutely. I think radio contracts have more foundation, more of a concrete foundation to them, which I mean they couldn't be any more bogus than
they don't mean anything.
Than NFL contracts where the guy comes up to the year where he's supposed to finally get the big payoff and they tell him, hey, sorry there.
Yeah, always.
But it was interesting because Brent was saying when he was on the show last week, whenever we posed this question to him, that you have to then reach out and feel the waters and say, well, wait a minute, man, maybe the best thing would be for this guy to get cut because there's somebody else that appreciates the value of what he's capable of doing and they're willing to pay the guy more than he would have made anyway under this new contract premise that by the way, that $15 million you were going to make, it's now $5 million.
That's the thing.
Still a lot of money. I mean, come on, Lubie. Let's not.
In life, yeah, but again, you have to suspend reality and not worry about the numbers because anyone, including these players, would be very happy with it. You have to look at what it is in comparison to what the cap is and what owners are making. That's just what you have to do.
Unless you're living on a place where you're planning on striking oil anytime soon, $5 million is pretty handsome payday. All right, a lot more to come on the show. Hialeah Park, we have to tell you about Hialeah Park because we love talking about Hialeah Park. It's a great place. The Champion Simulcasting Room, among my favorites. Now, you're going to see important races leading up to the Kentucky Derby and including culminating here at Gulfstream Park, one of the big races, the Florida Derby. I think you have the Arkansas Derby even a couple of weeks after that. So big 3-year-old races going in. And New York's going to be in focus. California always has a couple of Baffert monsters out there that you have to pay attention to, even if Baffert himself can't set foot on the ground. So are we going to see Baffert if we end up going to Churchill Downs for the Kentucky Derby? Now we have, Tony Segreto is proposing that, and also the Gambling Gourmet is saying that we might be able to do something there with the people from Primo Liquor. So if we had accommodations there, Lubie, would you be in?
Oh, yes. Oh, no, sure. If we're bringing wives, my wife has never gone. And I, like a dumbass, I forget if I rave about something she hasn't.
You're proposing, listen, I mean, you're talking to me and you're proposing bringing wives to what could be just a glorious gambling vacation at the greatest single sporting betting event anywhere on earth in any given year is the Kentucky Derby is your best chance to make a score. Best chance.
I know what I'm doing and I know who I'm talking to. I admit it. But from my perspective, I spoke of how great the Derby was because it was. That was like a fucking amazing experience.
Oh, no, it's great. Great sporting spectacle. I mean, unbelievable.
If we go again, then I sort of have to bring her. You don't. So I won't tell this thing. You can be. Like
that'll be easy to pull off. Where are you going? Going out to the grocery store. Meanwhile, she sees you standing next to Johnny Weir. As he's wearing, some flowery hat and interviewing celebrities that come in there. Oh, look at that. There's Tom Brady.
You're getting invited onto the coverage.
Boy, you're dreaming, man. It's great, though, when I go to Hialeah Park, if I'm going to go to Champion Simulcasting Room and punch all day, I don't have to worry. I bring the Mustang because she loves the casino there. Absolutely loves it, man. I've never seen, she doesn't, necessarily not get excited about going to any casino situation because she's a hopelessly addicted slot player and believes that she can win, which she had a few scores, I would say, recently that have not necessarily made up for the lifetime losses, but nonetheless, at least made the current period of time where we're scrambling, to reestablish ourselves a little bit here as media icons or whatever we were before, which, I kept thinking about this. I mean, how great is it? You're at the epicenter of virtually everything. You have two teams that could win a championship in the winter sports. You have, all of this controversy with the Dolphins and a new coach. And we were working for a place that decided, hey, why would we want to talk about this local stuff?
What do you mean? I was thinking about that the other day because someone referenced, I can't wait till you're back on radio and this and that. And I'm like, back on radio? I'm like,
never again.
I'm like, well, but look, I was doing the math.
This is radio in its own way too. I mean,
well, 100% is.
Yeah.
And we're already doing things that we weren't doing on radio. But like, I was just thinking about locally, we have supposedly 3 sports stations that run around the clock sports.
Yeah.
I was trying to do the math on how many actual live shows. I think there's 4 total. Yeah. 4 total on 3 24-hour sports stations. So it's like, where would we go back to? It doesn't exist. It's just not.
No. It's everybody in the corporate world just decided to check out on their local audiences, which is why it's a pleasure to be here. I mean, a whole new platform, Ion Channel. Jack Namer, man, came to me with this proposition. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I see where it's going to go. So it's been great. Fantastic. I would never go back into that. That kind of performing doesn't necessarily even interest me anymore, even though we're essentially doing the same thing here.
But we do
but it's more fun. And I'm glad people can watch the video stream. It makes it a lot more fun, and we keep improving that, or at least trying to. And a lot of that is courtesy of the fact that Hialeah Park has been big supporters of ours. And, that's one of the many reasons, not necessarily the main one, but certainly is a factor in me wanting to reciprocate that love and loyalty because, wow. I just always loved the place. So you can bring your wife there, right? Mustang, yes. Perfectly happy to go to the casino. Loves the food. Loves the food at Hialeah Park, man. We get that Cuban sandwich on the way out the door. And even though, she's not inclined necessarily to eat, we shouldn't eat red meat, but I'm thinking pork. What is it? A little turkey on there? What do they have on the Cuban sandwich? Typical.
And ham.
Okay.
Pork and ham.
Isn't that one and the same?
Yes, it's the same animal. Yes, but it's a different flavor. Ham's cured and pork isn't.
And the pickle is the thing that gets me.
The pickle's great.
Yeah, the pickle. What is it about a pickle, man? I mean,
who's you go to a Cuban, especially Hialeah Parks. I don't care what the hell you eat or
man. I tell you what, it's great, man. I love it, because Mustang only takes a bite. I get to eat the rest in the car on the way home. I mean, the bread's a little crumbly, because it's like the best Cuban sandwich you could get. It's just part of the thing. Everything they do it first class. Endeavors, and it comes off that way, and that's why the people love it at Hialeah Park. Get a player's card when you come in the door. It's going to treat you to all kinds of entitlements. Just absolutely great the way they take care of the players, whether you're a big-time player, VIP, or just doing it for the first time and saying, hey, what's the deal here? Make sure you make your plans. Check out the website, HialeahPark.com. They're a great organization. They're always doing a lot of charitable work, too, in the community, and a lot of exciting live events being staged there, including that last boxing match Frank Fiore put on. Just unbelievable with all of these Cuban sensations that were on the card. So make your plans to be out there, be part of the entertainment package, the dazzling casino, the poker room, the champion simulcasting room, the beautiful ambiance, the great food and drink, and the party atmosphere that is very, very unique to beautiful Hialeah Park. All right, we're coming back with more. Harvey's going to join us, Harvey Fielkov. You guys will find him very entertaining because, wow, I mean, an unbridled, overwhelmingly enthusiastic sports fan. Although I don't know that he's big on college sports, right? Is he a March Madness guy, Harvey?
He is. We just never talk about it with him. I mean, he's a New Yorker, and basketball was actually the thing. College basketball was probably as big a deal as NBA when you guys were growing up.
I mean, I idolized Luke Harnaseca, man.
CNY and all that shit. Like, that was a big deal back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, Harvey's old enough. He's enough of a geezer to have appreciated seeing Satch Sanders chuck him up out of the corner for NYU and then go on to a brilliant career with the Boston Celtics. The great Tom Satch Sanders, one of my favorites of all time. Was he number 16? I have to ask Big Al that, or the Greek. 16, Satch Sanders. Should I know this?
I don't know.
I'm going to get absolutely lambasted by the lovely and talented one for, I want to say 16, Satch Sanders with the Celtics. Why do I want to say that, Louie? Because I want to be wrong? Bill Russell was number 6. We know that.
There you go.
All right, we're coming back with more in a moment here. Harvey and Brett Tester, the agent of the Stars. Very interesting day. I mean, that was the top story all over the place. Is Calvin Ridley getting busted while the NFL has its arms firmly wrapped around every gambling entity on the planet, even endorsing, that little, quasi grocery store deli that was taking book in the back in Flushing. I mean, you'll see Goodell hanging out there now with the boys going, you guys were right all along, man. I should have been into this a long time ago. Way to go, Raj. All right, Back with more in a moment. I'm Jeff Deforrest. He's Mike Lubie, Lubitz, Ion Channel, Jack Namer's fine organization. The lovely Amy, always doing a great job for us, and solidly behind us with Brad Schiller on all of the technical work, and a fine staff there. They do a lot of things. You should check them out, Ion Channel, in terms of production and all kinds of programming. And we'll be back with more here on Ion Channel. Just Google the Defo Show, too. You want to see anything that we've done in the past. And, of course, you can find us on Believe Network now, which is a podcast network, but no longer using the word podcast because they've broadened their horizons to include what else? So what else is in there besides podcasts?
They have a lot of stuff there, actually.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Yeah.
There's social media. They got all this stuff going.
5 reasons as well.
And 5 reasons. Wow, that's really taken off for us. Thank you, Scoop Skolnick, man.
Yeah,
Scoop Skolnick.
Thank God, Scoop.
Media entrepreneur there, right? Thousands of people checking us out there, which is kind of nice, right? Because you don't want to be talking to the wind. Right?
Well, it's not great.
The Old King Crimson song from their first album there, In the Court of the Crimson King. And this song stuck with me. I must have worn out the complete plastic on the record there, the vinyl on the record with the needle going over. I talked to the wind so many times.
You just understand it.
The wind cannot hear. The wind will not hear. How many times have you felt that way? I mean,
oh, hell of a lot.
Hello? Anybody out there? Just a tough fate that we go through here sometimes. This is the business we have chosen, and that's why we're coming back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Oh, and Jersey Kyle says he's buying a computer. He'll be on the laptop.
I was actually going to reach out
Friday.
I'll touch base with him.
Good luck with that. It's 7:56. Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, when you look at the exploration and what's going on today, I mean, what was your reaction to what was there on Mars? Were you expecting to see like an Arby's franchise up there, or did you have a pretty clear picture of what they were going to find?
No, but at least a Starbucks. Come on now.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on The Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Once again, everybody, on this fine Tuesday, the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz with you. Ion Channel, all around the world, streaming audio and video. And the numerology, very impressive there, Lubie, that research you did on what's going on with the show. So very happy about that. Harvey Fielkov is going to join us. Who? What? Harvey Fielkov, what is that? Longtime sports writer in the South Florida area here, and still involved, right? He's another one. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. And who wouldn't want to be in this business? That's the thing, Mike Lubie. It's just a heck of a lot of fun being in the toy department all of these years. So Harvey will join us. I don't know if he's a March Madness guy. I was perusing this. You'll find it surprising, Lubie, because I'm gearing up for the venture to Atlantic City now. The odds, let's make the first wager this. The odds of the Spirit Airlines 8 a.m. flight taking off on time from Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, zero.
Odds, zero.
I'm not even setting an over-under. Yeah, they don't ever set. Like, Shirley taught me that one, like, because I had taken Spirit, and I think I had a good run, and we went on a flight, and it was on time. This is a few years ago, and I was like, all right, cool, and she just sat there. And I'm like, why are you sitting there? We need to get going. She's like, there's no way. I'm like, what do you mean there's no way? She literally just sat there, like, and was about to, I just talked to the lady. She's like, no, there's no way. I'm like, what do you mean there's no way? Like, I just talked to them, babe. She's like, I'm telling you. And then, right then, Oh, delayed. I'm like, yeah, it's not a big fucking deal. She's like, just sit down. It's going to be a while. I'm like, what do you mean it's going to be a while? Like, I just talked to them. 2 hours later, we finally board our plane. So
Yeah. Where were you going in Spirit?
where was I don't even remember. I think
Yeah.
I think New Orleans. I think New Orleans. I
Oh,
think
New Orleans.
we went on
Wow.
a New Orleans trip for her birthday a few years ago. I think
2 hour delay to New Orleans is annoying. Yeah, no, there's no question about that.
So
I would be upset if I had to sit there for 2 hours this
I'm
time.
not trying to cast a pox against you. I just want to come to Spirit. I throw times out the window and I just expect a delay and then whatever.
Yeah, you have to hope that this an 8 a.m. flight is their first flight, original flight of the day with this particular aircraft. And that they actually took the time overnight to check it out.
It's been waiting. That's true. That's true. If it's been waiting there, even Spirit can't fuck that up.
That's the problem, right? I mean, if the plane's coming in from Venezuela, which it's always interesting when you're at, the terminal, and there's speculation as to what's happening, and everybody's getting a little nervous because, well, what are you going to do, man? It's boring as hell to be sitting there in the airport. I mean, and you can only drink so much at the bar, especially if you're in the Vegas airport, because you're probably out of cash.
Yep.
At that point, and it's highway robbery. I mean, airport bars, could they back off a little bit on the prices, right? You buy 2 beers or whatever, for you and your buddy, it's $34, and you're thinking, well, when's the game start? I haven't even heard the anthem yet. What am I at a hockey game? Trying to catch a flight to get out of here because I don't want to be in this miserable place
like a
anymore.
Stones concert.
My God. Should come with a friction dance, right?
Exactly.
At least the option. One of those flight attendants. Yeah, exactly. Right? Should be sitting in your lap if they're going to charge you $34
for like 2 beers.
for 2 beers at the bar. Not even good ones, right? They're not even the right temperature. Nothing. I mean, just everything about it is something that would be designed to piss you off, irritate you, so that you might pull a gun while you're on the airplane. Threaten to blow your brains out in the aisle. I mean, what's the penalty for that? Not sure, but no, very, very prohibitive. But Spirit Airlines, I'm thinking it's the first flight. But people always start speculating as if they know. Oh yeah, well the plane's coming in from St. Thomas. And they had high winds there. It's like, well, what do you know about that? What do you with the CIA? You have inside information. You have a LoJack in this plane. I mean, how the hell do you know what's going on? Nobody knows what's going on. The people at the desk have no idea what's happening. They're getting bad information from the people that are running Spirit that don't want them to know how bad things are actually running that day.
Exactly.
Hey.
That's so true.
Well, anyway, so I'm going to be getting there theoretically in time to catch. I mean, it's going to be tight to catch post time for the first games of the Thursday session. Okay, this is Thursday, March 17th, the opening day of the NCAA tournament. Already watching with great excitement and enthusiasm some of the weenie teams that are getting in, right? Tennessee, Chattanooga, Lubie. Watch out for them. Tennessee, Chattanooga.
That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to see these teams, these schlepper Cinderellas. They're not even Cinderellas. I mean, these are teams that are in there to get stomped by Duke. Right? Every now and then. I mean, not very often, right? I mean, the 2 versus 15 has happened a few times, right? Did they finally get the 1 versus 16? Where it was 16 seed? Yeah.
Remember Virginia? Virginia did it, and then the next year won the title.
Right. Okay. A 1 versus 16. Yeah. Virginia, I mean, is that the only example of it, or in lifetime?
I don't think it's happened. It had never happened. We had close calls, and then it had never happened. And then Virginia was a 1, lost as a 16. So the next year, people had written them off, and then they came back and won the title.
Yeah, I mean, you love it when like Niagara knocks off UCLA or something. It's fantastic. It's part of the fun. And if you're, sort of following a team, which I haven't yet, really found a team that I thought, wow, you know what, they're going to be. I mean, Loyola of Chicago and beating Drake, in not exactly overwhelmingly convincing fashion. Does that make them live to win a couple of tournament games? I don't know that I was impressed to that level. With their play. Have you seen anything yet, Lubie, among the smaller conference teams that makes you think, or are you even following this? Because you don't care. You're not going to be betting your brains out that first day unless you're hanging out with the professor. Well,
first of all, I usually watch the first couple days with the professor. We usually hang out at the Foundry, so I care about the first weekend of the tournament. That's my dilemma. Is much like what you're saying. If I'm going to start watching the tournament next week, I sort of should start watching now, so at least have a fucking clue. Because otherwise, I've really not watched much.
You want to find these upset teams, I mean, the possibility that out of a small conference comes a team that here comes a team. It sounds like I'm doing a Zorro theme, but
I was gonna say.
out of the night when the full moon is bright comes an underdog known as Murray State. I mean, if you can spot that team and maybe ride them, I was thinking. See, I'm thinking Calvin Ridley here. He inspired me, the whole Calvin Ridley story.
We're gonna gamble
Because I'm
more.
thinking like three-way parlays, but not the way that he did it, where you got like 8 teams involved, but maybe find one team that you think is like an upset special, okay? And play that team on the money line in 3 different like 2-team or 3-team parlays. And also bet the team straight up, so that if your team wins, you're at least out of the bet. But now you have all these satellite bets circulating out there, where if you cash them all, you end up making a nice big score right away, beginning of the tournament, and you're out the door. Zippity doo dah, zippity yay, off to the race book is where I'm going to be, right?
Okay.
And you're out of the thing. But you have to spot that team. Is it Rick Pitino with Iona? Favored to win their conference tournament, as you might imagine, but with a close enough rival in St. Peter's. What do you know about St. Peter's? Nothing, right?
Nothing.
The MAAC. Now, what is that? Is
I don't- that's not the
there's a
MAC.
Mac, and then what is that? The Mac.
That's not the MAC. I don't know what the MAAC is. I
One
don't
of my
know.
favorite teams, though, to bet is in that conference. Monmouth, they're 8-1 to win the conference tournament and make their way into the NCAA tournament. But it would appear that Rick Pitino is headed for the conference championship, and the favored. You have to bet 110 to win 100 on that. So essentially, even money to win a title. And St. Peter's is plus 280, so you're getting almost 3-1 on St. Peter's in that conference. So does Iona? We'll have to watch this, right, and see if all those guys from Latvia that Pitino brought to the campus there in New Rochelle. If all of those guys are capable of winning, maybe 2 games, imagine that. You milk them for a game or 2 as winners outright.
If anyone can do it, it's him. Like
Yeah.
he's already starting to get talk about getting a big time job again. Like he's pulling a Pitino.
All right, Big 12, kind of interesting, right? Big 12, Baylor, Kansas, Texas Tech, all right there as conference tournament choices. Baylor, you're getting a little over 2-1 on Baylor and Kansas, co-favorites to win that. What do you think there, Baylor or Kansas?
I don't know. Isn't
Neither.
Baylor legit? Didn't Baylor win the title last year?
What about what about Texas Tech?
I know they're really good. They're
No
I know
idea.
they're good, but I don't know anything about any of these teams. I love that you're
I
asking
can
me.
tell you nothing about them. Yeah, Atlantic 10, Dayton is the favorite there. Dayton,
I mean, I know they had
favorite.
happen.
Davidson, VCU, St. Bonnie's, man. There's going to be a lot of St. Bonnie's fans, right? Big Goblin here, St. Bonaventure. St. Louis, sometimes a very pesky sort of team. No, St. Louis, University of St. Louis, Richmond, George Mason, Jim Larenega's old team. They're big long shots, though, to win the conference tournament and get the automatic bid to the NCAA. What about the Pac-12, Louis? Arizona as minus 150. Pretty prohibitive favorites to win it all. UCLA, you're getting plus 175. What do you think to win a conference tournament? UCLA with a shot there, the Bruins.
They had a top 5 or so recruiting class.
USC 12-1. Could they spring an upset? So things to follow, and should be interesting. So I'm hoping to get there. Do we lose the first bet, the first prop bet? Spirit Airlines on time. Now, that would prove you, what is it, about 220?
I was going to say, how long is the flight to Jersey? Because you're going to Jersey, right?
Yeah.
So isn't
About
it
2
shorter?
hours. What is it to New York? 2 and a hook?
New York's like 3, but I think Jersey's less, isn't it? I've never flown.
Yeah, it might be 2:45, something like that. I mean, it's
I guess
obviously.
you may even have leeway that they could have an hour or so of being late and still get there.
Now, do I make sure that I have a car waiting? Now, it's a small airport. Not a lot of people are, deplaning there or exiting the plane.
Okay.
So, it's possible to get a ride like right away to your destination. Okay. Now, do you wait for the freebie bus that takes you to Harris?
Oh, see, I wouldn't.
Or do you get in a cab and say Borgata and step on it?
Can you do that with the staying? Doesn't make you go to the hotel first? She surely always makes me go to the fucking hotel first.
No. We come in with our bags like we were Bruno Sammartino at the Garden that night when he was late for his match with Gorilla Monsoon. We come in with suitcases right into the race book there, right? And the guys are tripping over it at the bar there. I don't mind that, right? And they don't even care. They respect the fact that you came straight from the plane
If you're willing to go with bags, and yes, you go right to the thing. Like,
No, there's no shot of that, Libby.
I was gonna say, I'm like, my wife never lets me do that.
I was dreaming that. Are you kidding me? We're checking in. There's going to be a long line of schleppers at the hotel. All these freebie room artists like us that don't really do that much gambling, but somehow have qualified for their highest level of player's card. All right, we're coming back with Harvey Fielkov.
Yes.
It's going to be fun, though. We need some insight into this, right? The professor will have some picks. I know he's
And
got another big board coming up on Friday, Degenerate Friday. And Mark Lawrence.
Lawrence is back. I talked to Lawrence. Lawrence will be back
good.
this week,
Okay.
and the professor will be here to talk college basketball.
Man, we need a little Mark Lawrence on this stuff, too.
And I may reach out to Blake, our friend Blake Chadwick, who's as good.
Very good also, yeah. Is he, inclined to incorporate point spreads into his equation?
Well, because he's been with us a long time.
Yeah.
So because of Ken, PCU, everything is gambling. He doesn't really put his own money on, but he's big into fantasy. So he'll put the idea of...
It's all betting, Lubie. You call it what you want, man.
I know.
You can't put lipstick on a pig. All right? Still a pig.
It's still going to be a pig.
All right, we're going to make our way out of here and make way for Harvey Fielkov, one of the great sports enthusiasts that we feature here on the program. And we love Harvey because he covered every sport here in South Florida. And you know he's going to be sick in love with his man, Tyler Hero. Could he say enough big things?
Yes, he's been all over Hero. I was one that was like fucking Hero. He was loving Hero since day one. I have to give him credit on that.
Harvey had some game, so he can recognize talent, which is good.
He recognizes game, as they say.
Yeah. And, Hero, though, I mean, has... it kind of, took a step backwards last year, I guess. And he looked solid as a rookie, very promising.
He was good as a rookie. Just last year he was.
Last year was, women weaken legs. That was pretty much, it seemed to be proof of that. I mean, at least that's how the theory goes. Women weaken legs. Right? Mick was right there. Told Balboa that before he went out there for the Apollo Creed fight. And thank God he had his legs, right? Or he would have never gotten up after that 15th round knockout or knockdown. Right? Beat the count. Incredible. Otherwise, I mean, if he's messing around there with Talia Shire, it would have been over. He would have got knocked out in the third round, and they would have been able to make any sequels because who the hell wanted to see this stiff get in there again and get knocked out in the first round the second time? Unbelievable. That would have been, imagine if Stallone had just, had Rocky knocked down in the early rounds. He quit in his corner. He wasn't even hurt. Nothing. No, I can't fight this guy. All right, Harvey will be all over a lot of different things here. Covered every sport in South Florida, and also a big Panther fan. And he loves Sasha Barkov.
Yes,
who's been on fire. Now the Cats, they fell out, and right away that sourpuss Mayo.
Mayo was quick, boy. It's like, dude, they're third.
And
they were down 3 points. They were down 3 points. It's not like they're struggling. It's like, dude, they lost 3 in a row and still are only 3 points back of the number 1 seed in all of hockey.
I don't even think curmudgeon is, a valid way to describe it, man.
Cantankerous had a thing, and he.
Yeah, Harvey didn't throw in a towel because they lost 3 games in a row, and really it's remarkable. Think about it. We used to be accustomed to them losing like 11 games in a row.
Yes, I was going to say 3 games
without ever winning as much as they have, and now they're just blowing people right off the ice. Yep. Like second period yesterday was already 5-0. Randy Muller's on there, and he was out of breath describing the 4 goals they scored in the period. Right? I mean, it's hard to get that all in like a minute and change. All right, coming back with more in a moment. Harvey Fielkov, then Brett Tesser, the agent of the stars here, the Defo Show. That's Michael Lubitz. I'm Jeff Deforrest. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, also proud sponsors of the Defo Show. Going to be heading down there. Did get a direct message there from Tommy Fox. Let's work on the details.
Okay, good.
So
I promoted it yesterday, so hopefully it actually is happening.
It's going to be fun. I tell you what, when we get down there, just having Jimmy around and having him on this show is going to be a pleasure. Yeah. So we're looking very much forward to that. And you'll look forward to going down there anytime you're in the Keys. A great place to take in that remodeled sports bar. I mean, it'd be worth a trip down there and just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to watch some of the games. I'm going to hang out at the Tiki Bar, have a couple of drinks, hang out in the pool there, do some water sports, enjoy some great food and drink. I mean, that's where the pizzas really come up big, huh? When you're watching a little March Madness and you have all this innovative stuff from Dominic and Jemmy. My God, this guy comes up with creations that are just absolutely sensational. I'll have to get the Gambling Gourmet down there because I know he's going to be blown away by that Italian fisherman pizza with all the seafood on it. I'm looking and going, wait a minute, there's a lobster on here, right? A live Maine crawling right across. It was absolutely fantastic. No, I mean, a great spirit down there, too. Just a great vibe. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. That's mile marker 104 Overseas Highway in Key Largo. All right, Harvey coming up, then Brett Tester, the agent to the stars, as we continue here on Ion Channel on the Defo Show. Mike Lubie Lubitz, Jeff Deforrest. Back in a moment with Harvey Fielkov. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:15. Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
You've lost that love and feeling, which I marched down the aisle to on 2 occasions. It was one of those, Karen, that was all we had. That was all they had. They only had a couple of musical choices, none of which were particularly good.
I feel like that says something if that's all you can walk to the aisle.
You never close your eyes. That part's good. But when the chorus starts and everybody's singing in the audience, you've lost that love and feeling.
There is nothing better than Defo. It's now time for the Defo Show.
Oh, this is brilliant. Welcome back to the show. Jeff Deforrest, Michael Lubie, Lubitz, as we continue with this edition of the Defo Show. And there he is in full splendor, full regalia, with a Yankee hat on and a big smile on his face. And
Ranger shirt.
What are those posters in the background there? It should be a stadium, no?
That was our trip to St. Petersburg and the Baltic Sea cruise. My kids made like portraits out of the photos.
Very nice. We welcome Harvey Fielkov, longtime sports writer here in South Florida, to the show. He's covered virtually everything, and you did cover this. I mean, your love and amazement, and you have been mesmerized by Tyler Hero's potential. Which, watching his kid last night, I don't know if it was Hero or Clyde the Glide Drexler, man. The guy looked great in this ball game and having a phenomenal season for the Miami Heat.
Loved him from day one. I had sophomore blues last year. I think got a little bit full of himself, a little South Beach partying. This offseason, look, he put on muscle. This kid's got it all. He's got hops. The guy's got an amazing outside shot. He can drive. He's got that scoop shot. Eric Reed calls it the scoop. It's like he's scooping ice cream out there. He doesn't even stop. He just kind of ladles it in.
Yeah.
He can get his own shot whenever he wants. And he's all you want. He's actually a great passer also. I mean, defensively, he's up and down, but he's still only a third-year player. And 1 year was the bubble year, not many games. But right now, if he doesn't get six-man award, man, they ought to just eliminate that trophy because this guy is a lock. 30 points last night. He's a regular 20-point scorer coming off the bench. He's had to start a lot because Kyle Lowry has some disappearing acts that we're not sure what's going on in his life. I hope everything's okay. He was there last night, but really was no factor. But then they had a secret guest star, a cameo by Victor Oladipo, who came out of hibernation, 4 years of being injured. The guy was a solid two-guard before he sustained a myriad of injuries. And it's like a secret weapon right now. The only thing I'm not happy about is it made Max Strus kind of invisible. And I love that guy. He's kind of Duncan Robinson with defense. So we'll see what happens. I mean, right now, Eric Spoelstra doing an amazing job weaving in 10, 11, 12 plays. His team is so deep. They're not hurt with anyone on the court. Caleb Morgan, they got to sign this guy. Caleb Martin, excuse me. They got to sign this guy to like a major long-term contract. He does it all out there. So right now, Miami, South Florida, be happy with what you got. Don't be miserable with what you don't have, like the Dolphins and the Marlins. You got the Heat and the Panthers, two of the best teams in their respective sports. Just go with it. Enjoy it, because right now they're a joy to watch. The Panthers lead the league in goals, first in the Atlantic, second in the entire conference. They're on the way to their first playoff series victory, I hope, 1996, versus the Dolphins. But this is their year. I mean, there's no chance this team does not advance in the playoffs this season, guys. So it's a lot of fun right now. I'm not happy with the Yankees right now or baseball, but be patient. We don't need them for a few months.
Well, it's interesting, too, Harvey. I know we say this every time that one of these situations arises where there's a lockout or a strike or any kind of work stoppage and, seasons. You had an entire hockey season shut down by one of these labor disputes. And in reading some of the postscripts on that in relation to the baseball situation now and the collective bargaining agreement, which seems to be going nowhere. And, they're talking, the theories are, well, maybe May 1st, they'll get this thing started, and the players are going to insist they get paid for all the games. But Gary Bettman supposedly was determined to just crush the union, and the owners all got together, and I think in the end that they ended up getting the better of it, even though, obviously the conditions and pay for players has improved greatly in the National Hockey League over the years, but this Major League Baseball, I don't know. I mean, people always say, well, and I don't care about that. If they get it worked out, great. If not, and that's kind of my approach. Well, whenever they start playing, I'll probably watch again. I'm not one of these guys that's going to say I'll never watch another game. That's wildly almost impossible to conceive of. But I don't know. Do you see or sense that there's more indifference about it? You love baseball like nobody else that we know. And, I guess a lot of people do, but do you see this indifference kind of setting in where people just don't care anymore?
I definitely some apathy, indifference. People are suffering right now around the world.
We kind of lost you there, Harvey. I don't know if your mic shut off or what happened there. Yeah. You might have hit a button or something, but
Going in and out.
Yeah, you're going in and out there. But anyway, you were saying it, and you were looking good saying it too, even with the hat off.
It looks
And
good.
the hair a little bit verklempt here early in the morning on a Tuesday.
Sleeping.
There you go. Sound a little better now. Yeah.
Listen, guys, there is some apathy and indifference. There's a lot of struggles around the world with diseases and war, and people don't want to hear about billionaires arguing with multimillionaires over money. It's just disgusting. And right now we have a lot of other things, as I said, to focus on in the sports world. Besides, basketball, hockey, you got the NCAA tournament coming up, which we all love.
Were you into that? We were speculating that you weren't that big on college sports, but you would have to be a college basketball fan growing up in New York, no?
What do we have in New York? St. John's? That was about it.
Yeah, Lou Carnesecca, man. When you're not that much younger than me. I mean, who didn't love Sweet Lou, man? And anytime he spoke, I mean, you had to listen, right, with that voice he had and the style.
Yeah, well, Walter Berry and Chris Mullin. I love that team, obviously, but we didn't have much else. Just like we had no college football. I didn't even watch college football until I moved to Florida. I had all the pro teams that I needed, 2 in each sport. So I didn't need college football, and I didn't really focus on college sports until I transplanted to Florida. But right now, we have so much. And I do like the tournament. The tournament's exciting.
Yeah.
I don't do the betting pools. I'm really not that into it because I don't follow it during the regular season. I did shed a tear over Coach K the other night, which is kind of sad that the UNC blew him out in his final regular season home.
What did you think of him coming out there, though, before the ceremony was going to begin? And all he had to do was sit there. And, if he said, hey, listen, we wanted to bring you guys a victory here, but North Carolina, I tip my hat to him. But instead, he grabs a mic, impromptu, and just starts improvising how the whole thing sucked. I thought that took away from a little bit of the sort of high level emotional air of the ceremony. It's like who needs to have a coach like look his team in the eye there and apologize to the fans because they didn't play well that day. Crazy.
I mean, he saw the crying faces in the stands. I mean, these kids were crying blue streaks down their face from the colors, and he just said this game is not acceptable. He says the season's acceptable. Basically, it's not over yet. But it was his last time there, obviously, in home. But I listened to the whole post press conference, that the reporters put him through, and it was much better than his on-court speech. He really
looked lame to me. I lost a lot of respect for the
he
man
talked about
when he
his
did
emotions and his family and seeing all the old players coming back. But unfortunately, the fans didn't see that press conference. I just Googled it and wanted to see it on YouTube. Classy guy, great career. You can't say anything negative about the guy. He seems to be loved by all his players, past and present, future. So I wish him nothing but the best. I hope they'll make a little run in the tournament, just for old times' sake. But we'll see, because UNC really just exposed a lot of their weaknesses.
Very much so, yeah. A little in and out there with Harvey Fielkov. I don't know. The closer you are to that screen, I think the better it is, although it may be a little bit horrifying for the audience seeing you for the first time here on the Defo show. All right. We are looking at another one of your favorites, right? And you mentioned this with the Florida Panthers, who, as I said, are contemporary and a longtime contemporary of yours there, a co-worker of yours at the Sun Sentinel, the great Mike Mayo, who had the genius to go from the sports department, which was dying out, and they were firing people right and left, or asking you to accept the buyouts there as the newspaper business crumbled right in front of our eyes. And Mayo's the food critic, right? Which everybody eats. So there's not going to be any problem. We have like 8,000 restaurants in South Florida, maybe more. I don't know. I mean, there are like so many places here. So he prospers there. But he has this sourpuss mentality, which you're probably familiar with, where he doesn't believe anything good is going to, perpetuate itself. And he thinks the Panthers still have to prove to him that they can win a playoff series, even though your man, Sasha Barkov, is having a sensational season.
The whole team, just like the Heat.
Oh, we lost you again there with this microphone. It's flitting in and out there.
What's going on? Go back. Can you hear me now?
Now you sound good.
All right. I was too close to it. Listen, I think Mike Mayo suffers from indigestion too much.
Yeah, that's possible also. Yeah, he looks a little irritated all the time now.
By the way, he left the sports department way before the newspaper industry was dying. Smart move on his part, but the section was still in great hands for at least 10 years after he left. But Mayo was a great sports writer. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, he
funny,
thinks.
Yes, like Greg Cody, like with his humor, and all subjects. And he loves hockey too. Coming from New York, he
covered the Panthers for a while, also.
Yes, he did. I covered him for 7 years and a couple of playoff runs, but obviously never amounted to anything. Trocheck was tripped against the Islanders, but listen, this is the year. There's no chance that this team is not going to win a playoff series. They're beating all the competition put in front of them, including Tampa, who is still just barely. They're on their heels in the Atlantic. Carolina also is having a great season, but right now the Panthers, they won 3 in a row. They had a couple of hiccups there at home. Shocking, but their offense is clicking. They lead the league in goals. It's not just Barkov, it's Huberdeau, it's Duclair, it's they got the old guys Hornquist and Bobrovsky and Knight splitting the net. I mean, this team is just cooking on all cylinders, and I don't see them stopping. They've been steady all season. Had a couple, recently during a few losses. They're all 1-goal losses, high scoring losses. They could use another defenseman, a real rugged defenseman. Rocco Gudas is kind of alone out there in the toughness department, but they're going to do it this year, man. The Panthers and the Heat are going to go deep in the playoffs. The Heat get no respect from the NBA, and analysts out there. You never hear them talking about them, getting to the finals again. But to me, they play like the old Knicks, the old Celtics, pure team basketball. They're a pleasure to watch. No matter who's in there, they're going on all guns. So I love this team. As we spoke, Tyler Hero's reminds me of Pete Maravich in a lot of ways.
You love this guy.
I
all right. This Calvin Ridley story. I don't know if you're familiar with all the details of it, but he gets involved in he made a few wagers while he wasn't actually with the Atlanta Falcons. He was on some kind of non-football injury relief or sabbatical because he was dealing with mental health issues or his own mental state. And okay, so he makes a couple of bets. Here's Roger Goodell sitting with with Portnoy, on Barstool Sports, owned by a gambling entity, and he's wearing a FanDuel jacket. So the NFL is encouraging everybody. I think half of the commercials in the Super Bowl involve gambling sites, and the proposition that you start wagering heavily right now will even give you $1,000 free incentive to come in here, make your first $1,000 of losing bets on us. Yeah, great.
Exactly.
So why are they doing that? I mean, that's to encourage people to get involved in something. Which here's a relatively young man, and he makes a couple of bets casually, and now he's suspended for a year. Is it hypocritical on the part of the NFL to do that, or should they not? I mean, I don't know how clear it is in any collective bargaining that at least betting on your own sport, I would think would be a rule that every league and entity in sports would have engraved into any collective bargaining agreement. Go ahead and you want to bet on basketball, whatever, fine, but don't be betting on the National Football League if you're in the league.
I think that's the point, Pete. I mean, let's talk to Pete Rose about this subject matter. I mean, you can't bet on your own sport. I mean, obviously, we had an NBA ref throw games a few years ago. We don't know about Pete. We think he only bet on the Reds when he was managing them, but who knows if he bet while he was a player. But that guy was.
I think he was betting on everything, man.
He was betting everything.
He was betting on 2 roaches in the sink to see who would get to the drain first when he turned the light on in the kitchen. This guy.
Right. But listen, we got a football team in Vegas. We got a hockey team in Vegas. It's all right there. All the gamblers,
exactly.
They all could get a hold of them. But I do believe there needs to be a strict rule that you can't bet on your own sport while you're an active player. I just feel like you can't do it because everyone will be suspect of throwing games. So I think that Goodell has to slap him hard on the wrist on this one.
All right. Well, good stuff, Harvey. I like the Yankee hat was good. Did you lose it there? Did your dog chew it up or something?
I want to show my nice head of hair. That's all.
Oh, no. Yeah, you look sharp today. And this was great. A great innovation. Worked out for the most part very well. And we'll iron out the technical sound issue. But no, very good. And always great having you on the show.
Lastly, Indian Wells this week. The great tennis tournament right before the Miami Open.
Nice.
Looks like Djokovic is going to play.
Will you be covering the Miami Open, by the way, for any of your local entities?
I hope so. Still talking about it with the Herald and the Palm Beach Post.
Okay.
These guys,
tell them to make a decision already, will you? I mean, tell them to make a decision.
Serge Stokowski, a former player, serving volley player, top 30. He's retired. He joined the Ukrainian army. We got to give it up for this guy. He's rich. He didn't need to do it. God bless this guy, and I hope he stays safe because that's an amazing feat that this young man's doing. Serge Stokowski, look him up, guys. What a class young man.
No, deep respect for the Ukrainian people. Didn't know much about him, right? And wow, you can't help but just have nothing but the utmost admiration for their spirit, for this whole thing. And I mean, amidst like the most dispiriting of circumstances where you're just getting arbitrarily shelled by Russians who decided, okay, you know what, we want to take over your country. And, I mean, amazing bravery that they're showing.
How about Klitschko, your boxer, the mayor of Kiev is there.
Yep.
Right behind me there. Yeah. Vitaly Klitschko. I pay homage to him every day with this picture here. Where, and I'm hoping that Putin runs into a big right hand. Remember that roundhouse that Klitschko threw? Man, he gets you in the temple, it's over. All right. Harvey, have a good week. We'll talk to you again next week. Harvey Fielkov, ladies and gentlemen. Long-time sports writer down here. He didn't even get into much of a kvetch about his Yankees, which was good because
we held him in check.
So much positive stuff happening, at least in our hometown with these winter sports teams. Heat looking very good. I mean, they're so deep that they pushed a couple of guys that were contributors completely off the rotation.
Yes.
With the return of Oladipo now. And as he mentioned, this Max Strus was having a pretty good year. And Dedmon is playing well enough that who was the center?
You're 7?
Yeskerton or something like that.
You're 7.
Yeah. Whatever his name was. And he was looking decent. But I don't think he got the robe off yesterday there to get into the game.
So too many guys. They literally asked Spoelstra about having too much depth, which sounds like such an oxymoron.
That's it is. It's a Yogi Berraism, right? You know what we have? We got deep depth. All right, we'll get into it with, it should be interesting. Brett Tester, the agent of the Stars, always issues with the National Football League and a lot of stuff happening from contractual standpoints. And then this Calvin Ridley story, very interesting to see what the response is and what it will be from Brett Tester, the agent of the Stars. Going to join us next here, brought to you by Will and Trust attorney, Mr. Michael G. Wild. I'm Jeff Deforrest. He is Mike Lubitz. Later on, our Believe podcast, I'm going to go with Don McLean, right?
I've heard
Doug McLean.
Yeah, I think it's Don McLean. I've heard
Don
it
McLean.
pronounced before. I mean,
Bye bye, Miss American Pie. That guy.
yes, that's his song. It's a 50-year, I guess. This last year's a 50-year anniversary of him.
What are we doing with a bunch of shot fighters that used to be in the entertainment? No, I mean the guy's still. Musicians are eternal.
Yeah,
And it's 50 years the history of that song. So McLean's on a little bit of a tour here, and so we'll speak with him later on today. Our thing with John Oates, that was an eye opener for me. Oates couldn't have been a nicer guy. Very hard to continue with, and proliferate our theory that Oates has no business in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
But you're not the only one. Anytime I mention the name, people are like, "Oh, that guy doesn't count." I'm like,
The professor made the most valid point. Like if they're selling tickets to see Oates, which I guess he's trying to sell, right? That's why he joined us. He's doing a little tour. I mean, would you pay to see John Oates without Daryl Hall?
This tour he's doing sounds interesting, but maybe
I might be inclined to do it now after talking to him, but I wouldn't have been before. Let's put it that way.
No. Before we talked to him, I made fun of him with you, but I mean, after looking into their careers, they intertwined for a long time. That it's hard to separate them.
Yeah. All right, so Don McLean later on, Bye Bye Miss American Pie, 50-year anniversary of the song. We're going to have about 7 minutes with him on our Believe podcast, and then we'll have to figure out what to do with the other 20. Could always talk about this gambling issue, that's for sure. All right, that's coming up next. Brett Tesser, the agent of the stars, brought to you by Will and Trust attorney, Mr. Michael D. Wild. He's Michael Lubie Lubitz. I'm Jeff Deforrest. Back with more on the Ion channel on the Defo Show in a moment. Now that. It's 8:36.
Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
The simple pleasures of this job, the way a stadium sounds when one of my players performs well on the field, the way we are meant to protect them in health and in injury. Less, more attention, caring for them, caring for ourselves in the games too.
The agent to the stars, the one and only Brett Tesser.
Welcome back to the show, the Tuesday edition of the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Michael Lubie Lubitz here on Ion Channel. And I suppose I should be suspicious of this. And this is unrelated to our next guest, who is always just a massive dose of credibility here on the program. But I get an inbox message from a guy that I was very friendly with, but he's dead. A private inbox message on Facebook asking if that's me in this video.
And he's dead. Like, the guy.
He's dead. No, he died a few months ago. It was a shocker, man. I mean, I was very upset about that. I really loved this guy. He was always great to me. And so I got a message from a dead guy saying, is that me in the video? I mean, and they want you to punch on there. I mean, what are you kidding me? Even an old fool like me is wise enough not to fall for that. All right, here's a guy that really helps his players not fall for bad contracts or any kind of mistreatment by ball clubs, and has gotten the most out of so many guys for them, and has just had a marvelous career, and always with Cinderella stories. That's what I love about having Brett Tesser, the agent to the stars, on the show. We welcome Brett to the program. His appearance here every week brought to you by Will and Trust attorney and estate planner, Mr. Michael D. Wild. Also a mention what he does Brett, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, guys, and thanks as always for having me.
Well, it's great having you on the program, and very appropriate from a lot of different standpoints today. Not the least of which is this Calvin Ridley thing. Now, it's interesting to me. And we know that the NFL has infused itself with the gambling world to the point where I think half the commercials that you see during NFL games are gambling related and encouraging you to join up on various sites and systems and phone applications and start betting in-game parlays and all kinds of crazy stuff that even a Meshuggah gambling degenerate like me would not, recommend to people as a common practice. Is there some language in the collective bargaining agreement or in player contracts that stipulates that you cannot gamble or specifically you cannot gamble on NFL games if you want to be a part of the league? Is there anything there that points that out and emphasizes that this is an absolute no-no?
Yes, the league makes it very clear to everybody that they are not to participate in any type of gambling relating to our league, and that's everybody, including front office people, training staff, officiating crews, everybody, players. You're not allowed to place any type of bet that relates to gambling. I'm sorry, that relates to football, NFL football. And aside from players, all the other people I just mentioned aren't even allowed to place any type of bet on really any other sports league, college or pro. And so the league does make it very clear. I, as an agent, wouldn't bet. It just wouldn't be proper. And, in terms of the legality of it, I don't believe we're supposed to do it. But nonetheless, it's just one of those things that is probably smarter to stay away from anyway. And, in regards to Calvin Ridley, it's really unfortunate because it seems like it was a pretty innocuous thing that he did. I mean, this is not some sinister case of, a guy betting millions of dollars against his team or using any kind of inside info. This is just a guy that, was away from the league. He was injured, he was taking time away. And it seems like it was just a small little, parlay type bet. And unfortunately, it's going to cost him a lot. It's costing him a lot reputationally. And as well as financially, he had a huge salary coming this year. And, he's established himself as one of the better receivers in the league. So certainly very unfortunate. And there's no question that the league is overreacting mightily to it. But they're not doing that because they think what Calvin Ridley did was, again, so sinister. They're doing it to send a message because players talk, teammates talk. And even though we're in the off season, I guarantee in my clients, their teammates, opponents and their teammates are all texting each other like, man, you see what happened to Calvin Ridley. So that's probably what Roger Goodell wanted. Calvin Ridley has appeal rights, which I'm pretty sure that he will exhaust. And hopefully this winds up getting taken down to a much more appropriate punishment. As opposed to what's been, laid down here. This is not a case of the Black Sox. This is not like well-organized crime. This is just a guy on his own placing a minimal bet for his team.
Well, we're talking with Brett Tesler, NFL agent. Follow him up on Twitter at Tesler Sports and Facebook, Brett Tesler. Look, we all understand Defo even asked me, do people bet on wrestling? And I'm like, I don't think they do, and there's a reason. So we get it. This has to be on the level. You have to punish your players. It is against the rules. They can't gamble on their team because you never know whether it's going to go. Fine, let's say that, fine. But the reality is, Brett, as we all know, not only is gambling legal in a lot of states now, sports wagering, but the NFL itself has not only embraced it, but is partnered with 4 or 5 different gambling entities. So the NFL itself has allowed itself to have its own team in Vegas. So they've sort of embraced it. So to me, to say that you can't gamble at all, I feel like you sort of have to change charters a little bit because they're being massive. It feels like, to me, they're being massive hypocrites.
They've embraced the industry of gambling,
yes,
as well as all the money that comes with that,
yes,
not necessarily the wager itself. And so there is a distinction there. There is a difference. And look, again, do I think Calvin Ridley's punishment fit the crime? No, I think, myself and most other reasonable people would think it was extremely excessive. And that's why, again, we could certainly expect it to be adjusted to some degree, hopefully a lot. And, the league is allowed, the same way that players throughout the last several decades were never allowed to endorse any alcohol or tobacco product. Those have been the league's biggest sponsors. So clearly it is a different standard. I don't want to say it's a double standard. I understand it. Those entities help the league make an awful lot of money. And that amount of money is, of course, factored into the pot that becomes the salary cap. So, of all the things that I will take shots at the NFL for, this isn't one of them.
Integrity of the game is always brought up when situations like this arise, whatever league it happens to affect or impact, where there's suspicion and or where there's validation that there was gambling involved with people inside the game. Do you think this impacts? I mean, I'm still thinking about this whole Stephen Ross thing, that if it's ever proven by Brian Flores that he was offered money to deliberately go out and lose games, you would think if Ridley gets suspended for a year for this, that it would definitely mean that Stephen Ross would be permanently removed from any connection to the sport, and probably any sport for that matter.
Yeah, I agree. And, if Stephen Ross did do the things that he was accused of, and again, I'm not so sure that that's the case. But, in time, if there was indisputable truth, I mean, it's one thing to suspend a player, not that that's fair, but I mean, there's only 32 owners of these multi-billion-dollar franchises. And so when you're going to go ahead and make a move on someone like him, you better make sure that your evidence is substantial, indisputable, and I don't know, again, whether that's going to be the case. I would think a man like Stephen Ross, who's as brilliant and successful as he is in life, would probably not be going down that road. At least you would certainly hope not. But if it were proven in a very certain way that he did do exactly what he was accused by Brian Flores of doing, that would be a big problem, with or without what's going on with Calvin Ridley. I don't really think that makes a difference. If it were determined that an owner of a team was mandating legally that and financially specifically rewarding people for losing, that's a huge difference than the wink, hey, let's take a step back to take a giant leap forward thing that's gone on for many years in many leagues with many teams.
We discussed this a little bit, I think, last week about getting a call where, it's a time of the year where GMs might be looking to restructure contracts of players on a lower level in order to accommodate needs elsewhere, whether it was somebody else's salary or addition of players to try to make the club better, in theory. DeMarcus Lawrence of the Cowboys, he tells Jerry Jones to stick it where the sun doesn't shine. And I believe, you were telling us that most agents, I don't know how easily it is to anticipate these situations, but, that you, if it were your client, you would have been on the phone checking out this guy's value long before, once this was in action, that you would want to make sure that, the player is going to get maximum value and that he might be worth more to another club. So it'd be worthwhile just to hold out and say, hey, I'm not altering my contract here. What are your thoughts on these situations? Again, if you can sort of reiterate some of those things, because, it was interesting. I mean, why should a player, when he's finally getting the year of his contract where he's going to make the most money in all likelihood the last year, just automatically agree and capitulate to the club and say, all right, it was 15, I'll take 5, no problem.
So in the case you just mentioned, a player like DeMarcus Lawrence, there's sometimes where an agent and a player don't even need to find out if there is equal or more money elsewhere because you already know the answer to it. And so in the instances where a player's performance has not quite reached the level that he's being compensated for in any given season, that's where when a team comes to you and tells you, hey, we need to adjust this, that's when you check around to see whether there will or will not be a better offer elsewhere than what your current team is offering you. And obviously, if, that salary cut that your team's offering you is still going to be more than you get elsewhere, again, then you become a little bit more open-minded and agreeable. In the other case, if it's an instance where a team has just painted themselves into such a bad corner salary cap wise, where they're forced to let go of players that, are making a lot of money, not because that player's not worth it, just because that team can't afford it in its current structure, that's where the player has the upper hand, and that's where the player can just tell the team, no, go ahead, do it, and we'll see what we've got elsewhere, because that there's going to be a very healthy market for a talented pass rusher.
Brett Tesser, the agent of the stars, with us here on the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz. Brett's appearance brought to you by Will and Trust attorney, Mr. Michael D. Wild. All right, Aaron Rodgers supposedly going to be offered just a gigantic deal to stick around with the Green Bay Packers. We were asking earlier in the week when we had the great John Kajemi on the show, one of our fine football analysts, what was more likely to happen, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, or neither, to quarterback the San Francisco 49ers.
I was full of that, and Tom Brady won. They must have listened to Tesla last week and trust Tesla, because Tom Brady won like 60% of the poll.
Okay. We want to get into that, but what's your reaction when you see something like that, there's a deal on the table? And I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know if it's Rodgers' agent. I would imagine not, that this was more likely driven, this publicity, by the club, that they were ready to offer some blockbuster deal that was going to revolutionize the scale and the way that quarterbacks are paid well into the future. What's your feeling about that? Is that just rhetoric, or are we going to see something absolutely wild happen here?
Well, I would assume at this point, I don't know his personal spending habits, but I would assume that a guy like Aaron Rodgers is probably worth a couple $100 million. And so you would think if he's invested that money wisely, and if, he doesn't suddenly develop a massive, gambling problem or drug problem or something like that, or make a bunch of terrible investments, that, he is more than set for the next, 50 lifetimes. And so with that, I don't think it's really all about the money to him at this point. He's a guy who obviously has also made a fortune off the field with State Farm and some of the other, companies that he's worked with. So he's at a point in his career right now where it comes down to winning, comes down to principle, comes down to where basically he thinks he's going to be the happiest and most successful as he sort of writes the final chapters of his career. And so a guy like him clearly would have options. He's a guy that clearly could be the biggest difference. I mean, no disrespect to Matthew Stafford, did a very fine job, but if he was the missing piece that put a team like the Rams over the top, imagine what the hell a guy like Aaron Rodgers could do for potentially, a Denver or a San Francisco or some of the other teams that you've heard mentioned as possible, landing spots for him. So he's that kind of a talent, maybe the greatest ever. And so his decision in terms of where and what he does is not just going to come down to money at this point.
Do you still see or sniff a possibility and or a reality of Tom Brady being the 49ers quarterback next year?
I mean, look, if you put two and two together, it is his hometown. He is still playing at a tremendously high level statistically. Nobody's ever loved the competition or the sport or working to master that position like Tom Brady has. And I just feel like, even if he plays a couple more years, as long as he's still healthy and feeling good, and he's not going to be in an offense where he's going to be running the ball and putting himself too much in harm's way. I think if the arm is still there, I think a guy like him could play as long as he wants. And, maybe the situation in Tampa just sort of ran its course. Not sure about the relationships with, head coach, people like that and him. So, maybe that was one of those things where they accomplished what they set out to do there. And, maybe it's time for a new and final challenge on the horizon. And obviously nothing could be a more storybook ending to a storybook career than him going back to his hometown and being the piece that can really put that team over the top.
Do they have cap room for Gronk and Antonio Brown, which I would imagine would be two demands of Brady if he does sign with the 49ers? That'd be a great ending to the story, especially since it does seem like they're primed to do something. And as you mentioned, if Stafford could be the difference maker in winning a championship in LA with the Rams, the 49ers were every bit as good as the Rams going head to head last year. And, with Brady, would have been a huge difference maker than, kind of Jimmy Garoppolo, who was throwing the ball like the one-armed man in The Fugitive, for most of the later part of the season. All right, the Combine. Any Combine Chronicles from Brett Tesler? We have Lubie with his Combine Chronicles. He hasn't really established anything of any particular significance. Is there anything that came from these days of competition? I'm assuming they're over now, right? Is the Combine finished? Did you see anything there? I mean, can we read into anything, Brett Tesler, from what happened at the Combine? Players on the rise, on the fall, any kind of ideas that came from there?
Every year you hear the numbers reported, and now, of course, you're able to see it on TV of some of the most amazing, mind-blowing performances. I mean, you are just seeing the absolute most freakish blends of height, weight, and speed. Just where no human at that size. Where literally, some of these D linemen now, some of these D tackles, offensive linemen in some cases, guys, in the mid to upper 330s running in the fours. I mean,
it's
absolutely.
It looked like Bullet Bob Hayes. Yeah, exactly.
But at the end of the day, I mean, I think Orlando Brown is still running his Combine 40, and he's one of the best tackles in the NFL. Just got franchised by the Chiefs, and obviously should be in line for a record-setting deal. And, he had maybe one of the worst 40s in the history of the Combine. And, that hasn't in any way hampered his ability. There's other players I've had who didn't have the best times at the Combine that are now some of the most dominant players in the league at their position. And then there's other guys I've had who have put up just the most insane numbers at the Combine or the Pro Day. And for one reason or another, it never translated to success at the next level. So, it's always fun to watch for everybody, but at the end of the day, it always comes back to, can a guy play or can he?
Is it more likely that some team will fool themselves into thinking that they've found a franchise quarterback in the first round of this year's draft than it is that they just realize that that there's nobody there that fits that qualification?
With that position, the statistics throughout the years are the statistics for every one, Josh Allen, there's Jim Druckenmillers, there's Tim Couches, there's Ryan Leafs, to think that it, came down to a flip of the coin between Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning, and to think about how it affected not just the current fortune, but long-term fortunes of those organizations. And so, just one of those things where you never know. You can only take an educated guess. Most of the so-called experts don't think that this year's draft is like the draft of a few years ago where, there was a couple of surefire guys or even, a few years ago. So there's been a lot of good quarterback drafts coming up. This year is not expected to be one of them, but, for every bust like a Sam Darnold or whatever, there's always somebody who emerges. And so, we'll see where these guys get drafted. And obviously in a couple of years, we'll know how good of a value those teams did or did not get.
Holy Weeb Eubank. I was hoping Darnold was the savior for my one-time favorite team, the New York Jets, because I just hate seeing them so downtrodden forever, even though I'm no longer as emotionally attached to them as I was at one time when I was selling souvenirs at Shea. All right, speaking of selling things and doing a great job, this guy selling his services is really... I mean, it's remarkable what it's done for a lot of people, including me. And it's amazing how long after somebody's passing that you still might be dealing with financial issues, and you have to have them clearly laid out. And that's where Michael D. Weil with his financial planning comes in. Not only while you're alive, but then on top of that, with establishing living trusts and things like that, and saving you aggravation after, maybe your own passing or somebody in your family. Definitely the guy to go to for any kind of wills and trust and any activity in that direction.
That's right, Defo. And, talking about the league's association with gambling, talking about the draft. These things are all risks, and that's what makes them fun. But one thing that is not fun to take a risk at is your family's estate plan. And that's why you reach out to Michael Wild at South Florida Wills with an S, southfloridawills.com. And, he gets it taken care of very quickly for you. It does not cost a fortune. And it makes you realize that you didn't need to procrastinate as long as you did on it. And frankly, once it's taken care of, it's just the biggest weight off you and your family's back. So reach out to Michael Wild, southfloridawills.com.
It's amazing, those banks that used to welcome my, at the time, 97-year-old mother in and talk about how, favorable they viewed the fact that she had an account there. I didn't want to give you your money when she passed. So thank goodness for Michael D. Wild, man. He made a complicated process go very, very smoothly. And that was way after the fact. Great attorney and a good guy to go to for any kind of will and trust. Brett, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much. Very illuminating today. Always appreciate you being on the show. Well, you have a great week, and we'll talk to you again next week, my friend.
Sounds great, guys. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Tessman.
All right, Brett Tester, the agent of the stars. All right, pretty clear. I mean, what everybody's, the common wisdom is on this Calvin Ridley story, Lubie, just to wrap up that whole thing. That, it's, spelled out very plainly that you can't bet on your own sport. I guess players are allowed to bet on other sports, so.
Well, no, he said they can't bet at all, is what Tesla was saying.
No, I think he said players might be allowed to bet on other sports, but executives and people in other capacities with teams aren't allowed to bet at all. But I don't know. How do you restrict a player if he wants to bet $200 or whatever, $2,000 on some boxing match or UFC? Can you really tell the guy you can't do that because he's in the NFL?
Is if they start betting somewhere, they'll bet everywhere. Like that's and that's why what the fear is betting on the league. Because if you start betting on the league somewhere, why would not? What team do you know the best? Your own. So why wouldn't you bet on your own team? And I understand all those fears, but and I like how Brett said it, and he was saying it. He wasn't mocking, but he was being honest, saying like they embrace the idea of gambling entities.
Yes,
they don't embrace the gambling. What? How can you without the gambling? You don't have gambling entities.
I mean, it's getting to the point. I mean, it almost is there already where, you're going to hear like an Iron Eagle talking to Charles Davis and say, well, what do you think, Charles? They're going to run the ball here or pass it, right? It's 3rd and 6, key spot in the ball game. And before Davis even responds, he's going to go, and if you want to bet whether they're going to run or pass it.
Yes.
Punch this up right now. You got like 4 seconds, people.
I'm surprised
which I'm in favor of. I mean, I don't mind if they're encouraging you, but by its very nature, you would have to think that, that big concept of integrity of the game, you can't have players betting on either their own team, other teams. It just doesn't look good. It's not a good look for the league if you're asking yourself if the game is conducted on the level, which, they have to protect that or they'll be a sham.
It won't be
when it comes to any kind of gambling. Yeah. It already looks bad with the officiating.
Yeah.
Right? You would swear these guys were being bribed. When they cut off the Russian money there, I mean, you might see better officiated ball games. No? Come on. I mean, that may. Somebody's influencing these guys, or so it seemed. All right. We're going to try and influence you again tomorrow to listen to and watch the show here on ION Channel. It's always a lot of fun being with you. Thanks to Harvey, Brett Tester, the agent of the stars, for guesting with us today. You can catch our conversation with Don McLean. Bye, Miss American Pie later on Believe Network. And, of course, you can catch replays of this show on 5 Reasons Sports Networks, which are doing very well for us under the auspices of the great Ethan Scoop Skolnick. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. We go old school with Tony Segreto. That's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, Catholic Health Services. For Mike Lubitz, always a pleasure being with you, my friends. We'll see you next time here on ION Channel as we leave you know that.
The time.
Over under, Kyle having the computer by Friday. What do you think?
I'll put at 50-50 because he keeps saying it, and he's actually usually a man of his word. So I'll put at 50-50, and right now I don't know where I'm leaning. I'll have to wait till later in the week.
People are thinking that he was like, if I filed a missing persons report. I got that question the other day at the track on Jersey Club. Right. And then there was that bogus sighting of him in the background of the picture of my 2 grandkids.
I'm like,
did that not look like Jersey Kyle? He said, no way.
Yours?
Guy looked like a fat slob. He was scratching his ear like he does. Yeah.
When you looked at it close, it wasn't yours, but like
I thought it was him.
first looked at it, I'm like, is Jers there? Where's Deef?
I wasn't there. I didn't even know the kids were going, man. That's why I'm so proud of those pictures. I put up like 3 of them. I mean, I was so happy.
I know.
So a dead guy inbox messages me and says, check this video out. I think it's you in the video. Are you falling for that?
I am. I'm glad you
A dead guy. I mean, and I love this guy, Jeff Millman. But is he sending me private inbox messages now as himself? From where? I mean, you talk about a sign from the gods of gambling. And the most bogus of things, because people are so egotistical. If you say, is that you in the video? Of course they're going to punch up the video.
For sure.
So what does that do? Does that destroy your computer? What does that end up doing?
Do it. If you know he's dead, then no. Then you know for
sure.
No,
I never do. And I never punch that up because I know it's a scam, right? I mean, that whole thing is like a hack job.
Yeah. I got something the other day, an email. It wasn't even like it didn't even look like it. It was your payment has just gone through. If there's any issues, call. And I'm like, I haven't paid for anything.
Yeah, right. What the hell is that?
And then I called the number, and it was just some dude. I'm like, okay, let me look up and see what their number is. Of course, their number is not the number I had. So I actually was proud of myself for snooping it out. But normally I would have fallen for it and been like, oh, okay.
Right. Because you figure you just owe the people the money. It's got to be true. All right, that's going to do it. We have to get out of here. Thanks so much for being with us today on Ion Channel. Thanks to Jack, Amy, and Brand and the crew at Ion Channel for putting up the show and putting up with the show every day here. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll go old school with Tony Segreto. As we said, Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, Catholic Health Services, 2 wonderful organizations. And wow, I mean, dynamite stuff now with the prices in restaurants. Are you kidding me? You want to go to Texas Roadhouse, get yourself a steak, baked potato, the whole thing. And as Tony says, nobody could sell bread like Tony Segreto, man. He must have been a pretzel vendor at some time in a previous life on the streets of New York, man. He was probably the number one guy because no one could sell bread like Tony. Man. We love Tony. All right, we'll see you tomorrow at 7 in the a.m. on the East Coast as we leave you know that.
The time.
Imagine getting busted for gambling. It's 9:06.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.